second. Get organized here.
I only wanted to watch those two signatures. You only wanted to see those two signatures. And it was everything I expected.
Too much stuff.
Shelley?
Okay. Hi, Mary. So let me. How you doing, Lauren? Good. Okay. We are. Is Irene all set up there? Irene? Straight to. Oh, we're not going to understand. Do we need to move anyone up? But no, she's up there at the top. So that we're just no other. Nope. Okay. Irene, we good? We're good. We got the thumbs up. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Call meeting to order. Quick note: Rosemary is out. Today is her birthday. Wanted to say that. I wanted her to have the day off, but Paul only gave her the night off. So you know. No, I wanted to have her have the whole day for her birthday.
It was one of those milestone birthdays.
Yeah.
I heard.
So Nancy is going to take minutes for us. So if we could, rise, join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. No finance or, oh, hi, good to see you, Bridget. How are you? Anything Board of Finance, any comments?
Fire department, police department radios, and the boiler. So that's captioned for finance.
So the next event is town meeting on Monday, March 11th. It'll be right before our board meeting,
Yes.
6 p.m. in the auditorium.
Okay, so then I'm glad you said it. So March 11th at 6 p.m. in the auditorium is going to be the town meeting for yes or no votes on those 3 items. And then following that, 6:30 will be our regular meeting. Perfect.
And then 6 o'clock in the auditorium?
Yes.
It's actually on the calendar, that's right at your place, yes.
Oh, okay.
And that was emailed to you, I believe, right? Yes. Cool. Thank you. No, maybe we're here. Update from principals and our director of curriculum. You want to start?
Sure. So back on February 15th, we had a great day of professional learning across the district. As I mentioned, we welcomed CEA, who led a session in implicit bias for all educators. We had a 6-12 group and a K-5 group that got to meet. And the feedback was very positive from the teaching staff about really considering how we approach all students and all learners and make sure that our schools are welcoming at all times. So that was an exciting opportunity for us to do some whole district learning. We also, throughout that day, had a number of initiatives going on. We had the opportunity for our K-12 related arts teams, PE, library media, as well as the visual arts, to have the opportunity to meet and do some curriculum mapping and really looking at how we sequence that learning K-12, which is something that those teams haven't done in a while. So we're really excited to be leading that, which started February 15th and will continue on our next professional learning day, March 8th. In addition, we were really able on that day to push into some areas that we know are priorities for us. So for example, in response to our NEASC feedback, our high school teams were working on curriculum for part of that day. At the middle school, one of the initiatives we supported the Go Math implementation at the middle level. The 6-8 math teachers were able to work with a facilitator from the Go Math program to ensure that they're really maximizing the digital tools that the district has invested in, and the feedback from that team was very positive. Additionally, we've been continuing to work on our rollout of Readers and Writers Workshop at the middle level. Again, something that we discussed a good deal last year and throughout the fall. I was at the middle school today where we had a facilitator working with the teachers looking at their structures and in the classroom as well as their instructional practice. And it was really exciting. One of the teachers, one of the 8th grade literacy teachers, was talking about sort of beginning this journey back in the fall and feeling that there was a lot to learn, but at this point in the school year feeling very confident and excited about that work. and making connections to the mini capstone project that they want to launch at the middle school, which will connect to our high school capstone project, which we'll be hearing about tonight. So just really exciting to see a lot of those areas that we've been pushing into for instructional improvements grow and thrive. In addition, we are in the midst of Last Links testing, which is our state required assessment for all English learners in the school district. So we continue to facilitate those opportunities to ensure that the students are making appropriate gains in their acquisition and mastery of English.
Can I ask one question? You mentioned, maybe, I don't know who's here from middle school, Jason, or the middle school mini capstone. Where are we in the process?
Very
In the
beginning. So
development,
this is
such as-
this year is the first time we would be doing such a project. So I would say it's in its infancy. Having met with the teacher today who's looking to lead that, she's been reaching out to, it's a very new concept in the state of Connecticut. So we partnered, she's had the opportunity to connect with one school district that's already implemented. Just today, I made a connection with another district that has sort of a project-based learning mini capstone in their 8th grade that we're hoping to speak with their team and lessons learned and maybe even do a visit. And they're just in early talks of how the students would be able to showcase any projects that are developed this spring. And I was encouraging them to see the first year as a real opportunity to sort of dream big, but in my experience, sometimes if you kind of start with a project that you feel is manageable, you're going to be able to learn reasonable lessons. So they're excited to see that through, and the students are excited. So we'll be able to share a little bit more. They're just planning.
So
right now.
do they have some students who are going to try to actually create something?
Yeah, oh,
this year?
definitely.
Yeah, okay.
But they're still in the planning process of what that would look like.
Yeah.
So the number of students is yet to be determined.
Yeah, okay.
Schools, who's up? Anyone?
Memorial.
Oh, she called.
Census regrets tonight. This week is Read Across America Week. Dr. Seuss's birthday is March 2nd, which happens on Saturday. Every day this week we have a school spirit happening around reading and celebrating reading. Today was Cheetah Pride. There were spots in cheetah everywhere at Memorial. Like it's probably, in my opinion, the most school spirit that I've seen, even on a Monday. So stay tuned to some Facebook pictures with spots everywhere. So Read Across America is pretty exciting. On Friday, we had the J-Line dance crew come to East Hampton. They are a dance group of 3 out of New York City that does an anti-bullying assembly. Center and Memorial collaborated, so they did 2 shows at Center and then also 1 show at Center, 2 at Memorial. The lead dancer tells a story that going through school he was bullied and that he kind of became invisible. If I kind of become invisible and I don't wear any colors and I keep my head down and I stay quiet, people will leave me alone. And then through some mentors and experiences, he realized that he really needed to be true to himself and his passions. And so he became a black belt in martial arts and turned to dance. So he has a very powerful message. The kids absolutely loved it. And so that was really exciting as one of our PBIS assemblies that really looked at respecting ourselves and others and the golden rule. Last week was Random Acts of Kindness, and so many classrooms took it upon themselves to do happy notes for people all over the building, just expressions of kindness and appreciation for others. So if you tour Memorial, you'll see little heart notes everywhere where they've been just kind of shared. And then this week with the Sandy Hook Promise, see something, say something, and we're really encourage people to do that. So lots of exciting things happening at Memorial this week.
And I'd like to thank Memorial as well as Jeannie Sullivan for setting this up through their PBIS committee for the J1 Dance Crew. It was a perfect culminating event for Random Acts of Kindness Week. Our students as well absolutely loved it. A lot of debrief activities, which with some of our 5th grade students, you're not sure the impact that something like this will have on them. They completely gave up and were extremely moved by the message as well as the event itself. So thank you, Memorial, for sharing with that. As well as Ms. Gadore mentioned, Read Across America Day. We're celebrating that on Friday with a school-wide mix-it-up classroom read-aloud, 2:30 to 3 o'clock on Friday. And we're also taking the month of March to appreciate literacy and words that matter specifically. The area that we like to grow in is vocabulary, so we're trying to portray that in an interesting way to our students. So each week we have a different theme during the month of March that will eventually lead up to an author visit, Tommy Greenwald, on April 4th. So we're very excited about the events that are coming. And if you're interested in what those look like, I'll send them out in the Chronicle. I can send them out in a separate email as well as the details emerge with that. But kind of a little highlight, character trait vocabulary lessons the week of the 4th to the 7th. Our Scholastic Book Fair the 11th to the 15th. Vocab lessons and activities in library media class the 18th to the 22nd. 25th to the 29th, there will be Tommy Greenwald read-alouds during LMC class. And then a culminating event will be on April 2nd, Words Matter Locker Display. So we're going to go kind of up the ladder with some of the different vocabulary words that we'll be learning, as well as moving up in complexity. We want to put those on those paint cards, so you can see like kind of leveling up, and we're going to paint the hallways with those April 2nd. So it'd be great if you could stop by for that. And I just heard back from Hess, applied for a mini grant with some STEM activities, and they had granted our request, so we are getting 12 STEM kits from Hess that will be coming towards the end of April, as well as curriculum materials that go along with that. So we're excited for that opportunity.
Good job.
Very good.
Okay, middle school. Some of the immediate things that are happening, our volleyball season is underway. We actually have 77 7th and 8th grade student athletes participating in volleyball, which is a great number. We have a lot of 6th graders come to those matches to build their excitement for what they can participate in 7th grade, so that's really great. And it's a short season, it's a club, so all of our students, we don't do any cuts for that. And they're having a lot of fun. So our teachers are having their mid-year meetings with Jason and I, just discussing student data. It's all very encouraging at this point, and we're looking to really kind of boost that achievement for the springtime assessments. And our students did an advisory activity last week where they explored active learning and kind of what that means and how we want to measure it as teachers, looking at things like student engagement, participation, collaboration with their peers, time on task. So they're really learning about how we want to view them as learners, in our rooms every day. And so if you see a middle school student, you can ask them about active learning and kind of what that means and how we want that to look in the classroom.
So the high school, this year's version of the advisory program finds the advisories meeting once a month. And I just want to take an opportunity to commend Nikki Galvez, a member of our world language department, and Kristen Dean, our business teacher. They're just doing an amazing job working with and leading a committee that consists of a variety of different staff members, but also students who are giving pretty heavy input into this. I will tell you that all of the advisory themes this year, I've been very pleased with. There's been tremendously positive feedback from kids. This past Fridays, in particular, may have emerged as my favorite. So the theme is, as some of you have come to know, because there's been a recent Facebook posting. So Are You Ready was the theme, and there was a variety of workshops available for kids to sign up. And so rather than being in a traditional homeroom or advisory block, they took a look at the offerings, they signed up, they did it all online, and were able to attend something with a theme that really resonated with them. We had some teachers offer singleton workshops, others partnered up with a colleague. In a few instances, we had outside, some folks from the outside come in to lead these. Just some of the themes, while I won't go through them all, how to save money on groceries, how to perform basic car maintenance, how to tie a tie, bow tie, and dress for success, how to write a thank you card, how to build a resume, how to create a cover letter and resume, how to interview while being in high school, how to purchase and finance a car, how to establish personal credit history for the future, and someone even did how do you make campus marinara sauce. So, there's a variety of different topics. The feedback I heard from students was very, very positive. Why can't we do something like this again? And not as in a why can't, as in the door's closed to do that. Just let's get something like this going on again. So it was very positive and very good.
Thanks.
Good. I know when you sent the images, I just clicked on maybe 5 of them, and I happened to click on Frank with the boys and their empty dishes of marinara. Frank in his East Hampton sweatshirt. I was laughing. It was great. I thought it was amazing. fun day, you know.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. Now I'll open that audience of citizens, comments, questions, remarks. Hi, Tanya. Anything? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mark, seconds. Nancy, question, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we have good stuff. I will turn it over to Paul to introduce.
Well, we have a real treat for you tonight. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Rizzuto so he can introduce Erica. But we have brought Poetry Out Loud to East Hampton. Mr. O'Donnell spearheaded this, and there were competitions in each classroom, and then at each grade level, and then a building-wide competition. You are about to meet the winner of East Hampton High School's Poetry Out Loud competition, who will proudly represent East Hampton at the state level competition on March 9th. So we're putting a little pressure on her because as a warm-up for that Poetry Out Loud, she's actually going to do one of her poems for you tonight. But let me turn the program right over to Mr. Rizzuto at this point.
Yeah, let's move out of the way.
That was already a nice lead up, so it only gets better from here too, right? So we're just going to continue being good for you. So I am pleased to announce Erica Fulta as the Poetry Out Loud contest winner from East Hampton High School. I would also like to recognize the members of the high school English department who all incorporated this into their respective classrooms, and in particular, I would like to recognize English teacher Mr. Mark O'Donnell for championing this initiative at EHHS. A bit of history about the competition. Poetry Out Loud is a national recitation competition for high school students created by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation in partnership with the U.S. state and local arts agencies. Since the program began in 2005, Poetry Out Loud has reached more than 3.6 million students, 60,000 teachers, and 14,000 schools nationwide. The competition typically begins in the classroom as students select poems to recite from an online Poetry Out Loud anthology consisting of over 900 classic and contemporary poems. At EHHS, after classroom level competitions took place, grade level competitions occurred in December, producing 4 finalists, 1 representative from each grade level. On Tuesday, January 29th, these 4 finalists recited 2 poems each, and the 4 finalists were 9th grader Caleb Ripper, 10th grader Brendan Owen, 11th grader Nate Doherty, and 12th grader Erica Fulta. While all the 4 finalists performed very well, our school-wide winner delivered her renditions with stage presence, strong command, and a clear ability to bring her poem selections to life. Her performance was captivating, inspirational, and impressive. She will represent East Hampton High School at the Connecticut State Competition hosted at Middlesex Community College on Saturday, March 9th. Finalists from regional and statewide competitions will then go on to compete in Washington, D.C. to determine a national winner. Tonight, we wish Erica congratulations, good luck in the next round, and she will also be performing for us one of her selected poems. Congratulations, Erica.
Nice.
This is actually the first poem I learned for the class level, so it's my original. I am learning to abandon the world, by Linda Paston. I am learning to abandon the world before it can abandon me. Already I have given up the moon and snow, closing my shades against the claims of white. And the world has taken my father, my friends. I have given up melodic lines of hills moving to a flat, tuneless landscape. And every night, I give my body up limb by limb, working upwards across bone toward the heart. The morning comes, with small reprieves of coffee and birdsong. A tree outside the window, which was simply shadow moments ago, takes back its branches, twig by leafy twig. And as I take my body back, the sun lays its warm muzzle on my lap, as if to make amends. Thank you.
Stay right there for a minute. Would you introduce the guests who you brought tonight?
Oh, it's this entire side of the room. Alexis, my best friend, my Nana, my mom, my aunt. Wow. My Aunt Patty, my Aunt Marie, my cousin Isla, my Aunt Terry. And in the back row, my dad, my sister Jessie, and my brother-in-law Andy. They've all been so supportive through this whole thing. It's just been amazing.
Great. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Okay, first that's for you.
Come down and take pictures. Don't be
And then
shy.
we'll make you hold the phone. Go in right there.
I thought O'Donnell was joking.
No, he's not. It's something he would say though, you know.
I will not cry.
Too happy enough. All right, 1, 2, 3. With flash. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
There's a few cameras here.
There's only a couple.
And Erica, from the board, these are also for you. If you can carry all, I'll carry this over to you, please. Let somebody carry this for you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Good luck.
Best of luck. Keep us posted.
This was just a school thing. I
Oh,
realized it
this
was
is
the
a
whole
big
state
thing.
It's exciting.
So the next round, wait, what were those dates again? The next round?
March 9th, correct?
March 9th is correct, yep.
Okay. A second.
You know how many shall be competing against?
Age 35 to 40.
Wow.
Schools and state participation.
Wow.
I think you're gonna have a nice crowd at Middlesex Community College as well. I hope everybody's going.
Sorry, we're just hogging all your time.
It's okay.
Alright, we're getting out of here now.
Don't worry. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that for us.
No problem. It's good practice. Good job.
Yes.
Take care.
All right, our student reps aren't here. Are they at the game, maybe? Or
Could be.
yes,
Rob, thank you for a couple of moments.
yes. Good. When you an update when you come back there.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, good. Personnel has nothing at this moment. Policy curriculum. I know we have a couple things on the agenda.
There was a meeting today, but last time there was a meeting and some things later on, which Nancy and Lois are going to talk through, because that wasn't there.
Oh, okay. All right. Learn. Any updates from Learn?
We skipped finance and transportation building.
Oh, I
and grounds,
did.
But we'll be
I
discussing
did
finance tonight.
Yeah, so there was no update.
Learn, we did have a executive board meeting the other day, and pretty much one of the hot topics is that our executive director at Learn, Eileen Howley, is going to retire at the end of June. So that puts me on another
Search committee.
search committee, basically. So that'll be starting
She is a
up.
big loss to that organization.
Yes, she
Yeah, but
is.
I mean, I can't believe it's been 7 years that I hired him, so it's been a quick 7 years. But, yeah, so that's, I'm trying to think if there was any other topics, not that I can think of.
No. Anything new with the building committee?
No.
No. And I'll put you right on the spot. We pass right over you. Welcome. Any report for us?
So this Friday we have Mr. Ballringer, which is being hosted by the National Honor Society. This is to raise money for whatever organization that they've picked. I'm not sure which one they picked or if they decided yet, but any of the proceeds from that will be going to the organization. Over our little February break, around 40 students went to Canada over their long weekend. And I've heard nothing but good things. Everyone's like, you should have come, you should have taken French, you can go. Okay, it's a little cold there. But I'm in Mexico, and all the paperwork for that was due on Friday. So Miss Bope has like 160 papers now that she has to sort through and go. But all of that's set, so all we have to do is go now.
That's for April, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then the Interact Club's done a lot. The high school students each of them have been assigned to a Friday afternoon club, the ones that have volunteered. And I believe that starting. Yeah, I think it started in the beginning of March, so I think it's this Friday or next Friday. They've been helping out with basketball concession stands. They help with the Kids Can Teach program at the middle school, and of course PTO babysitting. Last Friday we had an advisory where we each got to pick which advisory we wanted to go to. I wasn't here for it because I was on a college visit, but I do know that a lot of kids liked that rather than having to do like a structured advisory with the homeroom. They got to go on with different kids about something that they were interested. So we had things like Dress for Success, how to change your tires, how to tie a bow tie, like little things like that. And on February 14th, the business students went on a field trip to University of Hartford, where it was kind of like a business career expo, so they got to see all the different fields in which, like, if they got a business degree, that could help them. And Hannah's at the basketball game right now.
Yeah.
That
So what
trip
about-
to the University of Hartford must have been the most exciting day ever.
I was asked to go, but I don't want to do business, so I was like, no, thank you.
No. What are you thinking? What are you visiting?
Anesthesiology.
Really?
Good choice.
Nice. Any colleges in mind? Or?
I'm going to UVM.
Oh, nice.
That's
Another
where I
good
was last Friday.
Another good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice, yeah.
It's very cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the cold weather, so why I'm going north, I absolutely have no idea.
No.
But
Wow.
yeah, all the kids there, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, they had their hats, their duck boots, their parkas on. I was like, oh my god.
Wow.
You'll survive.
Yeah. And in their rooms, they're bigger, but it's so they can hold all of their jackets.
They're winters.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like we wear like 4 different jackets a day.
Well, good for you. Congrats.
Wow.
Okay, Mr. Rizzuto, the update is?
45-23, Bellringers, there's about 3 minutes left.
Now to the next round.
Yep. Good, good, good.
Which is Thursday night, the 28th. So after the tri-board meeting and your quick vote at 7, you can catch probably the end of the game.
Yeah.
That's 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Will it start at 6 again?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, okay. This Thursday. Okay, we're on to Superintendent's report.
We begin with an interactive budget workshop.
Yes,
So
we do.
Karen is prepared to answer your questions. She has a handout at your place as well. Karen, do you want to start with the information?
Hi, Karen.
Hold on.
I just provided information to respond to the questions that you had last meeting about, Mark had questions about a particular substitute line in middle school, and perhaps in June we could look at maybe refiguring these amongst the buildings, but I hesitate to make any reduction because I basically have the budget about flat compared to what this year looks like. And 2 years ago was higher substantially than what the next year's budget is, so it's a fair budget overall. The next page was again Mark's question regarding Memorial School's interventionist line, which does show a substantial increase. The current year budget is just about $344,000. The next year's budget is $464,000, $465,000, a substantial increase. I just sort of went over the whole interventionist, the number of staff at the bottom. At the end of last year, we ended with 12 interventionists. And there's 1 board-certified behavior analyst, one board-certified assistant behavior analyst. And during the course of this year, we have added 2 positions as needed. And there is another one that is in the works. But again, this has been a area where the superintendent has reduced the cost dramatically of these folks for benefits in terms of the cap on the health insurance. It's the 5% pension plan, and he's also developed a sort of a scale system for the new hires. So I think these are value for the buck, or you get a good bang for the buck on these people. But you're right, Mark, it does look like on that line a substantial increase.
And that's pretty much due to the number of kids we have that we have to service, right, because we have the.
Rodney's not making it back there, yep. Yep. And again, it's IEP driven, and it's the needs. This is what we need to do. Yeah.
I understand that has to go along with making sure about the cost of weights.
Yes.
Some of these students are students that would otherwise be helped.
Yes.
So much
Right.
higher cost.
Good.
The next page is in relation to Nancy's comments about, and concerns about the curriculum line, whether that's a sufficient budget. And on this page, what I did was pull out also the supplies that are spent at the building levels, highlighting these largest areas historically: reading, language arts, math, science, art, and everything else. And then I made notes about what it was that was mentioned in the superintendent's presentation so far this year, and sort of little hints about where the issues will be in the future in terms of the math program. In a two or three more years, we're going to have to make a substantial decision, either a large investment or change the way we're purchasing that program. And it's the history and the future on sort of one page. And then the next page, Joanne had asked about just another view of where does the money go. So again, this is a couple of year history, and next year's budget compared to this year's budget, and the change. And in next year's budget, the change for salaries and hourly wages and benefits accounts for 96% of the change in the budget. So essentially, that's where your money is going, into the people and the staff that are providing programs to the students.
So,
Buses and fuel, one more school year of the contract, correct? The bus contract?
Yeah, this is, there'll be 2 more years.
2 more, so we have,
Versus your 3 out of 5. Right?
yeah, okay, yeah.
Any headway on the electricity? Anything new to report? The high school study?
Don did get back a report from the engineers, and they've made a lot of adjustments to the operating of the equipment here in the building, and it has become comparable to the prior year, starting around October.
Oh, all of a sudden?
Well, there's been a lot of work,
Yeah.
and there is still a lot of more work to do in terms of the engineers went through every piece of equipment on the roof, and there's a lot of things that are coming on and off. I'm not an expert in all of the different settings that are on there, and the temperatures are affecting them, and some of them aren't running well, and they don't even the engineers that designed it don't have a clear view yet on why some of the equipment is performing the way it is. But they're still working it out, and maybe something that we'd have Don or the engineers come and provide further information on. I think that we also, long-term, have to think about the summer operations of the building. We have programs in the buildings, and this building is air-conditioned. It's going to be a fair cost to run. So that's all. It's gotten itself back in line, but it's been a lot of work on Don's part and the engineers who designed the building. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I just thought it's sitting here at 10%, just wondering
Yeah.
where we're at. Progress is being made, that's good.
And the last page, I just wanted to make a correction to the original handout. I picked up all of the benefits, not just medical insurance, so I just highlighted the
Gotcha.
and that's it. And last one.
Do you know, or Rodney, or, I mean, this is kind of a general question, you may not have any idea, or you may know exactly, I don't know. What percentage of our budget can we relate to special education? I was just curious, I mean, if you know or you probably have no idea. No?
I think we'd have to get back to you, but we definitely.
No, it's something you have to dig into, I was just curious if you kind of had an idea.
We do provide
Just curious.
in the education data system that we have to fill out, that is all in there, and we work together on all the grant applications, so we have to provide all that. But what it is percentage-wise off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay, that's just curious. I mean, it comes from so many different things that it's just curious. Okay. Don't go do it, just.
Okay, anyone has questions for Karen or anything on any of this?
Karen, could you email your handout to all the members of the Board of Finance?
Oh.
I think it would be good for everyone.
This one sheet, oh, yeah, that work? Definitely, that's what I was asking, these weren't up on the table, you don't have copies of them. No.
I'll give you my copy.
Oh, I got.
Do you have some
I'm sorry,
extras?
I got more copies. What
Okay.
time?
Oh, you got extra copies? I just told you to email it. It's either Dr. Brown and Florida and some other
That's right,
guys
yeah.
there.
There was a handout from the last meeting to Karen. We'll email both of those out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So-
know this helps someone not repeating questions.
Yeah. Any other questions? Jeff, Lori, Lilith, Mark? Anything for Karen? While you're thinking, anyone in the audience? Comments, questions, since we're here? Joanne?
The board is scheduled to vote on Thursday night at a special meeting. Do you sense that we'll have a quorum for that?
Yeah, why don't we ask, the tri-board meeting?
Only because it's due to the town the next day?
Yes.
Right.
So,
important conference.
yeah, tri-board meeting is at 6, for the hour that she runs, 6 to 7. We're thinking special meeting just to come in and vote on this. After the tri-board, get the input and the thoughts from the Council of the Board of Finance. So 7 o'clock Thursday, you will not.
Thursday, I don't offer any.
Nancy's a yes, Mark,
Yes.
yes, Joanne, yes, I will be there, Jeff, yes, Lori, yes. Okay, so, and I think Amanda said she could be there. And I haven't heard from Jared. Okay, so we should be good.
Okay.
So I guess you have 3 more days. Any other final questions, comments? To get to either Paul or Karen or whoever, get your questions answered, and then we will vote on it Thursday night.
Under, just something to, 5316 Computer Consulting Services. You mentioned that there was an employee evaluation software that you're reviewing, or is it something that we're going to be additional costs next year? Are we switching programs, or?
We switched programs at the end of last year, so we moved from the Randa platform for teacher evaluations for certified staff members to Frontline's product. which integrates, we use a lot of frontline products to manage various HR functions, whether it's absence management, time card systems, some of our special education materials are housed on Frontline. I would say they're a leading operator in the field. And so by transitioning to their teacher evaluation platform, it allows us to integrate seamlessly with those other components. So for example, it ultimately has a professional learning management component. So if a teacher's going out of district, it automatically requests a sub, things like that. So looking to become more efficient and seamless in our processes. And it was ultimately a cost savings to transition to that from the previous platform. Minimal, but it was not an added expense. And transitioning to that platform, that's a standard practice to have an online platform for that purpose. And it does not incur new expenses for the district.
Okay. Just wondering where we were on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I know some of those systems can be pricey.
Yeah, I would say our previous platform for what service it provided was not, it was time to reevaluate to find a more competitive product.
Yes, because we've had Randa for a while.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. And
that goes back many years. Yeah.
right, and a lot of those products that came out early in the new teacher evaluation cycle didn't have as much capacity for integration services as the platforms do now.
Okay.
Right, and Frontline bought a product called My Learning Plan, which was an initial one, and retooled it and streamlined it. And so we're kind of benefiting from that learning process. So
Okay.
it's widely used.
Okay. But otherwise, all our other systems and software are good.
Yes.
We're all- Okay. Okay.
Okay, everyone good? Sorry.
Has any,
no.
have we, what?
I thought we were moving on.
No. I guess one more question for Karen. Has anything changed in the last few weeks, just as far as getting more exact numbers on anything? Because I know things keep changing.
Well, the biggest thing would be the health insurance, and we won't even have, as I mentioned, the rates until about May 1st last year, then we had to do open enrollment, so
Right.
it's pretty close to mid-May before we have a pretty good handle on that.
Yeah.
So that's the most significant one,
Yeah.
and everything else, some of the other things like the non-health insurance will probably be almost late June, so it'll be about the time you're making your final decisions before we'll really have a better handle.
Because last time you had a little list of things that if this happened or if this happened.
Because of the scare of the increase in insurance.
We don't know, we have no contingency plan for that. Is there any change on that kind of front, or you're still
No.
kind of working with the same?
No?
Okay.
At your places, and there's extra copies on the table, are a calendar that will take you through May. The dates highlighted in blue are specifically budget dates and budget meetings, and the dates in white are your regular board meetings and subcommittee meetings scheduled at this time. We'll keep sending this to you over the weekend when I send you my highlights, but this is right off the press today. And if anybody's interested in a copy of this, right up on the table, please help yourself. Based on this, March 25th is a public hearing. The Board of Finance is hosting in this room at 6 o'clock. There'll be presentations by the town manager and the superintendent of schools, who will talk about their budget. That is a board meeting night for you. I don't know if you want to change the night of your board meeting, or meet prior, or meet after, or just forego the second March meeting. If you want to forego, we'll make sure that policy and everything are at the next meeting or the first meeting in April. There's nothing necessarily pressing for that second meeting in March.
So you're saying that's when Mike's presenting his budget and you're presenting your budget?
Correct, that's just a presentation to the Board of Finance, and then the next day through Friday and Saturday, they meet with all the different departments. So that's kind of a night to introduce them to the budget, and then they have a busy week that week.
I'm good with skipping that meeting and encourage people then to come to the presentation to the Board of Finance.
Sure.
I mean, if something comes up, we can always
Does that work for
meet
everyone?
at 5:45 or something,
Sure.
something with an emergency.
Okay. Do we need?
So we'll just consider that
Do we
the,
need a motion to cancel that meeting?
you can make a motion to cancel the meeting, and then we'll,
Yeah, since it's already posted. it's
schedule a
a
special
scheduled
meeting
Yeah.
if we need it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to cancel the March 25th, 2019 meeting for the Board of Education.
First.
Second.
Joanne, comments? Okay, all those in favor? Good.
But please come to the public
Yes.
hearing that night.
And those start
Why
at
you
6?
why I can't concentrate right now.
6, yeah.
6 p.m.
Yeah.
Then, at your places and on the table for people, it's a pretty important document that's come to this as a result of the governor's proposed budget. Keep in mind that this, it looks like this. It's right on the table if anybody wants one. This is a, should the governor's budget go through as proposed, this is the implication on all municipal funding, including the ECS base grant and the teacher's retirement contribution. I've highlighted those in yellow. The other white numbers are impact on town municipal aid. So you can see that the governor's proposed budget in ECS drops down $263,000, and should the teacher's retirement contribution go through the legislature, there would be an additional $151,000 that would actually be withheld from the ECS funding. I've given you just for...
That would be an addition, so it comes out of that ECS grant.
Right, so the way, the plan for collecting the teacher's retirement contribution, should that go through, and keep in mind that's just a proposal by the governor, should that go through, they would just hold it back from your ECS grant. You would not have to pay that portion, it would just be withheld on money that they forward to the town.
You mean the state's not going to make the towns pay that up front?
I know.
And then pay out the ECS over time?
That's what I think.
I know, really.
How could that possibly be?
I know.
And for those of you that are really curious, I gave you the complete rundown from the state, so you can see every single town's grant and their municipal grants. And then the Kinetic School Finance Project, this is also at your place. This is just the impact on ECS on every single town. You'd be happy to know that even though we are losing $265,000, the town of Darien will be getting additional funding.
I'm so glad.
So it's kind of curious to see who's getting money and who's losing money. I think you'd actually be surprised at some of the towns, and I won't read them here, but towns that don't necessarily need the money, I don't want to say don't necessarily need the money, everybody needs
Are
the
in a
money.
different position than we are.
But Darien gets an extra $15,000, Greenwich gets an additional $100,000, so just out of curiosity, you might enjoy reading who the winners and losers are in ECS. But these are 3 documents that I'll also forward these to the Board of Finance. This first one came from Mike, and I turned it into a document, so I think he already forwarded it to the boards. But I'll forward this version to the Board of Finance. But yes, and keep in mind that's just the proposed governors at this point. You know, what's difficult is we will have settled on and possibly already voted on a referendum by the time the state actually completes a budget. Right now, they're all consumed with school consolidation, and nobody's talking budget at this point.
Which is also a bad idea.
I just have a question on what's happening on Thursday with our vote. Since generally we, in the past at least, have all, talked about what we'd like to see in the budget, or if there's something we want that's not in there, are we proceeding on the basis that, as of now, since nobody has gone that route on this board, that we are moving forward with the superintendent's proposed budget?
That was my assumption, based on last meeting and this meeting. This was our chance to make changes.
But you can make a motion.
So be a
for
straight
it.
vote.
I mean, if you...
No, I just want to know what to expect at that meeting.
Nope, that meeting, because there have
Okay.
been, unless someone at that meeting wants to make a change to what's being presented, otherwise we will go with that budget, yes. But we can make changes at that point, yes. Good.
And let us know if there's any information that you'll need to make your vote Thursday night. Karen and I will be glad to, I'm offering Karen's services. But I'm sure she'd be glad to get you any information that you need.
So now we get presentation from the high school, graduation requirements. And I am going to scoot out of the way, because I want to see these. And then this. Absolutely. Taking this clicker.
Take the clicker, please.
Hi again, everyone. So I'm here to present to you the proposal for the next wave of the new graduation requirements. But I figured a nice way to kind of launch into that is by giving a little bit of perspective where we've been, and that will kind of serve as the lead up to what we're going to propose to you this evening. So for our current 11th and 12th graders, these are categories from when we were in school look very familiar, just the traditional math, science, social studies, etc. And whatever didn't have a neat and traditional category fell into the category of elective, and there was a minimum number of 22 credits in order to earn one's diploma. To our current 9th and 10th graders, that look and feel is different. And if you're a veteran member of the board, you might recall a few years ago having given your blessing to the proposal at that time. You see the emergence of new things in this version of the graduation requirements. For instance, STEM, that term, we've heard it here in several recent board meetings, and humanities elective, world languages, and putting a baseline minimum number of credits for that. Capstone project, that really gained a lot of momentum several years back. So definitely the graduation requirements for our current 9th and 10th graders have a very different look and feel than the previous ones, and it was up to 25 credits. Now, we have the next iteration of new graduation requirements given with the new guidelines by the state. This is the official name of the act, so this is going to impact our incoming 9th graders. In other words, the future members of the class of 2023. I wanted, before getting into some degree of specifics, I wanted to let you know exactly what informed the proposal. So a handful of steps taken over the last few months in order to arrive at what you will see soon. So it was obviously a review of the act requirements and the guidelines, a review taking a look at our current offerings and programmings, and being mindful to where we are or where we've been and the unknown of where we're going from both a budget standpoint but also our constantly evolving field of education. Several discussions with team leaders. What we did is we met on several occasions. We took a look at potential models. Then they were in turn disseminated to the colleagues in their respective departments. They talked about pros and cons of the different models. We started with keeping the minimum requirements at 25 credits. We went as high as 28 credits and a couple of different models in the middle. While they didn't have tremendous variance, they all had their little nuances to them which merited nice discussion. They in turn received feedback from the colleagues, and we continued our discussions in our team leaders meetings. And I shared this at one of my principal's parent advisory group meetings to get parent feedback, parent thoughts while we were going through the process. And then finally, the state put out these state briefings, which actually several of them were very helpful. They give different models, and as you'll see with the new graduation requirements, their terminology, while it will look familiar, the look and feel is going to look very different potentially from what our current high schoolers are chipping away at.
So, Frank, I have a question.
Certainly.
So the state is saying you have to have a minimum of 25.
Minimum of 25, correct.
And then it's up to each school if they wanted to require something.
Yes,
higher.
yeah, you got it, you got it. So, I've taken the liberty of removing a lot of the fancy language from the state that, that they will put out a very simple and basic idea and then put a variety of different things attached to it. And at its most basic level, it looks something like this. You will notice that next to the term humanities, there's an asterisk, and I just wanted to clarify for you why I placed that there for us. The state is requiring that every student must acquire a civics credit and arts credit. Everything else is going to be in the larger category of humanities. There we see our friendly term of STEM again, all the other categories. And on the right-hand side, I've just given you another visual of what I will be proposing to you. My next slide is will sort of be more in line with the way I did the previous graduation requirements. You'll see it's not tremendously different. So in other words, what the state has put out there for guidelines, our proposal for you this evening, again, it doesn't look tremendously different. Our approach with humanities, the reason why I color-coded that a little bit different, I'm going to spell that out for you kind of the next slide as part of the proposal. Same thing for STEM. And instead of using the term mastery-based diploma assessment, which is what the state is using, they basically said this is the overarching term. A district can have different examples of what a mastery-based diploma assessment is, and on that menu, capstone can be one of those. So we, in our walls, we've had capstone now for several years. It is in its 4th or 5th year iteration. Each year it keeps getting better. So we sort of already have it in place. So with your approval, part of our proposal is to keep the capstone in serving that need as required by the state. You also notice that our electives offerings, instead of the 3, which is sort of the parking lot that the state is saying, whatever doesn't have a category is going to go there, we'd like our parking lot a little bit bigger. So the electives is going to be 5 versus 3, and we are making a proposal to have our minimum number of credits be 27. So taking a look at that right-hand side, and again, this is the format I'd be using in the other previous slides. Humanities. To clarify that language, the only thing that's missing here in the red underneath the category of humanities is world language, is the discipline of world language. So that can count and be considered as part of the humanities world. So what we are proposing here is 4 English credits, social studies, 3 social studies credits, one of them being the civics, of course, arts, and humanities elective, which can be any one of English, social studies, arts, or world language. For STEM, a little bit more simplistic, 3 science credits, 3 math credits, and any 3 credits for science, technology, engineering, and math as a student sees fit.
So those electives are separate than the...
Correct. Yeah, these would be, and while I didn't use the terminology of general electives, that humanities elective in particular must be one of the 4 disciplines, English, social studies, art, or world language, correct. And likewise for the STEM. So, please.
How many STEM elective classes do we currently offer?
We would be able to offer a variety because in other words, all the offerings from the science department, all the offerings from the math department could be considered as part of that. On top of that, all of the offerings from we have one technology teacher, Mr. Angelo, but all of the courses he offers would help chip away at that requirement.
Okay, so it could be bio, AP bio, physics, AP physics.
You got it. So you're a couple of slides ahead of me. While I didn't get into course specifics, you get the picture here. In that, if I'm the kid and I want to be math tracked, there's a good chance I'm going to take a 4th math class as a senior. If I'm really interested in sciences, I might take a 4th science class. Chances are, if I'm and I hate to use the word typical, not a fan of that word, but if I'm likely going to take a 4th science offering anyway, likely going to take a 4th math offering anyways. For our more college-bound students, that's likely what they're going to pick. But college-bound or not college-bound, there's going to be a comfort, because if someone wants to go to a trade school or go on to a very specialized school, to have that math background, most of our kids are likely going to be picking a fourth math class or a 4th science course anyway. So,
I don't know if you'll talk about this later, but I'm just noticing the world language requirement. So we're actually requiring fewer.
Yeah.
And it would move to an elective.
This was I'll call it, and I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the word concession here, it was a sad concession, because I think where we were all, myself included, a little bit kind of swallowing a bitter pill there, we're taking a look at our staff the way it's presently allocated, taking a look at class sizes as they currently exist. If you recall, we lost the 3 sections from the world language teacher, Sandra Marina, who is officially at the middle school now. That was a bit of a hit. Where we took a little bit of comfort and walk away was because for many students, especially those that are going to be looking at for post-secondary college or university, they're going to need the world language. That's one of the reasons why we've given it to students in a different spot. For those students that want to take the second, and in several instances going to want to take the third world language, that's why we upped the ante and we bloated out the electives, went from 3 to 5. So that's another area where if I'm taking Spanish courses, for example, if I'm taking Spanish 1, then I can take that as a sophomore and junior. I'm chipping away at my electives, or I also have in my back pocket the humanities elective option that'll count there. So I have the world language requirement, 9th grade year. If I did the humanities elective, counting my world language as a sophomore, I'm still leaving my electives fairly intact. I could still take a 3rd year of a world language, even a 4th year of a world language, and I still have a fairly robust 3 electives there where I can take other offerings in other areas. So you're drawing that conclusion as the rest of your board colleagues and staff and the parents that sat in my principal's parent advisory group and myself as the principal, we were always kind of, how can this be? The state is requiring only 1. That is the minimum requirement for the state. We recognize that most of our students are going to be opting to take multiple world language courses over their career.
Right, because the kids who plan to go to college, they'll be well aware.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can do
Yeah. And our school counselors are going to very much be, working with our students and coaching them to be mindful. Those that have school after high school as part of their plans, very much coaching them, and you might want to be mindful of this. And depending on the student's interests, say, okay, your interests are here, so let's put together a plan of attack for what your electives might look like, what humanities elective might look like, in addition to the baseline world language requirement of 1.
Is that a change from the state's perspective? Is that because I'm noticing the 21, 22 had a requirement of 2 world languages?
Yeah.
Had the state required 2 in the past, or was that an EHS?
You're walking in my head with all these frames, Mark, and I appreciate that. So, according to what the state has put out, and I actually applaud this. This is said with zero sarcasm or judgment. The state is trying to give schools and local boards tremendous flexibility here. You'll notice that I've kind of given the course sequencing suggestion for you. It's as part of our proposal, because we have many masters to serve. While the state's giving a lot of flexibility, we also have the reality of the staff in its present size. We can only be as flexible as possible in terms of our course offerings. And we also have to look our students and our parents in the face with what we're suggesting. I can't, as a principal, endorse a humanities requirement, take anything you want, without requiring multiple English credits. And staff found that flexibility almost, in this part, hopefully does have a little humor, they found that laughable. The state is not requiring a student to take a minimum number of English classes. Their only requirements that came as part of the humanities umbrella was the civics and the arts, which is great, and I applaud them for doing that. But you'll also notice it says civics. This is my former, social studies teacher hat on. How can we have students not take a U.S. history class? So we're going to be making that as part of our proposal.
I just wonder, with most of the kids, I don't know off the top of my head the percentage of our graduates who do go to 4-year colleges?
We can take a look
at what, 2 and 3?
Mrs. Sullivan, do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Well, so in terms of going off to, is that your question about our percentage of our grads that go to 4-year schools? Is close to 80 to 85, kind of on an average year. And then on top of that, we have a growing number in the last 5 years of kids that are in our top 20% that choose to maybe go to community college for the first couple of years to save money. So even they take a lot of world language. And even before, as you can see, world language has been required in the last 2 years for the class of 20 and 21. I'm sorry, 21 and 22. But before that, we had a very robust world language program with zero world language requirement, because our kids that have historically been part of our culture, is that we do have a lot of kids, our classes are full. And obviously having lost Christina at the end of last year, that did hurt our class. But it was also kind of a double whammy having the two world language in our building at that time. But historically, we do have almost all of our college kids are taking 2 to 3 years anyway.
That's the standard for colleges, 2 or 3, or is it 3?
Minimally.
2 minimum.
2 or 3 of the same language, preferably.
Yeah. I just wonder if that many kids, graduates, are expected to meet at least 2, why that doesn't just stay 2. That's just, I'm not arguing, I just wonder.
I think we also have a bank of students that might not go that route. That for whatever their personal reasons, and that might change for maybe, so a few years down the road as I continue to take a look at where we are, where we're going. If we offered American Sign Language, for example, where a student might take a Spanish class for 1 year and then an American Sign Language, a very different feel, of course, but certainly one of the world languages, we could always revisit these. So 2, 3, 4 years from now, while we're setting them now just the way we have sort of tiered and staggered, and trust me, for program of studies reasons and for student handbook reasons, and so to spare you hearing me every 2 or 3 years and giving you a pitch as to new proposal, but we can make amendments to these as we take a look at our staffing, and again, as our field continues to evolve, we might have different nuances, and we might go back and revisit this 2 or 3 years from now and saying, we, as a community, feel that should be 2. But right now, that's why I would go back to the whole electives and then making that as wide as possible for kids.
Yeah, and as long as those kids are aware of it, right?
Absolutely.
They must do that. So does that allow those that 85% to, you're talking about staffing issues, will those 85% be able to take?
We'll get them in. We'll get them in. We're doing it now. It's cozy in some of our classes, but yeah, we're able to do it. We're able to do it because we're able to do it now. We're just not able to do it with a great deal of flexibility. Like as just mentioned, several of those classes are cozy.
Thank you.
And they probably have to take them at a certain time.
Sure.
Sure. It's the managing of the schedules and making everything work.
And I won't speak in subliminal terms, but even the addition of one world language teacher, whether he or she is teaching Spanish or a different language, for example, with Mrs. Frederick, for example, teaching French. I mean, it's a different world language. It appeals to a different interest for kids. And like I said, you already know where my head's at in terms of American Sign Language. I got several nods on that. Love to see a program like that emerge here. There's a need.
For sure.
If I seem to breeze through a couple of the future slides, we have handled several things, and you have anticipated several of my slides. So, which is great. So we have worked efficiently together. So some of my highlights in a nutshell, we've already went through. You see the emergence of the humanities umbrella, replacing the traditional terms from when we were students, and from even just where our current students have as graduation requirements. And they just gave the magic number of students need to attain 9. Same thing with STEM, replacing some of our more traditionally termed courses or departments. Physical education is just a change in the name. It's become physical education and wellness, like foreign language became world language. Because wellness, much more well-rounded term.
Can I just stop you on that?
Certainly.
So is there a class that would be falling under the wellness category?
So, for example, our yoga offering would definitely very much fit in terms of a mind and body wellness philosophy. Absolutely. Yep. But the state is leaving it that wellness is not. It is certainly from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint, and the combination. So one does not have to take that yoga class. Yep. Not that would be a bad thing, but in order to chip away at the PE and wellness. Health and safety, definitely important to notice. The bump up from 0.5 to 1 from the state standpoint, and one that we need to be mindful of in our planning over the next 2 and 3 years. I'll have more details on that I have designated a portion of its own exclusive slide to that, so I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And the world languages, as we have already discussed, the they move from a minimum of 2 credits to 1, and our collective disappointment with that. So I just wanted to put you in the mind of, I will say, mind of any one of our students, mind of any one of our counselors who helped support the credits and the tallying thereof over the course of 4 years. So underneath humanities, for many of our students, it would be very traditional, and I mean that in a good way, English 9 taken by 9th graders all the way up until they walk into their senior year. And then there is a wide range of electives in the English department. They are all semesterized classes, and so it really meets a variety of different student interests. So that's how a student would get to the 4 credits. For social studies, civics is taken care of right off the bat walking into high school. It's the 9th grade course. We have modern world to our sophomores and US history as a requirement for our juniors. And that gets our students to the 3 social studies credit requirements for that discipline. And humanities.
Is civics year long?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And for humanities, art is wide open. It is in the music world, it's in the more traditional tactile and visual arts world. And so for a student, he or she can really take their pick. If music, they can chip away at that requirement by taking 2 semesterized music classes. They will have attained what the state baseline minimum is and what our minimum is. They can mix and match. They can do whatever it is that they would like, which gives students flexibility. And as we have already discussed fairly thoroughly at this point, the humanities elective is wide open in any one of those particular fields. And that brings us to 9.
Before you move on?
Sure.
Just to understand the English. So one of my children took an AP English class as junior year and an AP English class as senior year. Does that mean that this structure would not allow that to be, I mean, you could take it as elective, but you still, and you only took 1 English class each year?
So, no, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you were finishing your question.
Yeah, no, so this English 11, is that a structured class or?
Right, it doesn't have to be. So in the same example that you just gave, we do have an AP English offering at the junior level. If a student wanted to take that course and then a different AP English course as a senior, they absolutely could.
Fine, great, thank you.
Same like the UConn English?
You got it.
So AP or UConn?
Yep. Yeah, it could absolutely chip away at these.
Or English 12.
Yep. So again, as humanities, again, at a distance comes across as the most complex, but as I just wanted to go a little bit deeper in there with you, because once you understand once we look at the category breakdown, it's just, okay, between school counselors, the students themselves, and parents being mindful of this too and chipping away, we're going to need a little bit of a nice organized spreadsheet in order to do this, but it is in fact possible. Science, again, for many of our students, in the 9th grade year, they're taking physical earth and space sciences as a required course, life sciences, formerly known as bio, chemistry, and that would take most students to their 3. Math, how to get to 3, it's wide open. If a student begins their 9th grade year taking algebra or geometry, and then the math department has a fairly robust set of offerings. And then for the STEM elective, again, it's any 3, so long as they're in the category of STEM, and there are a variety of different choices there for students based on their interests. So this, I had mentioned before, we would take a quick time out here in the world of PE and wellness and our health and safety. So in order to sort of responsibly be mindful of students having to come in and to get a full credit now in health and safety and to get that full credit for PE and wellness, what students are going to be looking at in the program of studies, our current 8th graders, they're going to be selecting a grade 9 health course with its own age and grade level appropriate curriculum. It'll be a semester course. That is how a student will get a half credit. Walking into their sophomore year, they will then be taking a PE course either during the fall or the spring semester. That'll chip away at a half credit as a sophomore. And several pros in that. Mrs. Clark has given a couple of presentations on the accountability index and some of the reporting. One of those things is the physical fitness test, which typically 10th graders take. So it's very efficient and sort of strategic to have it at the 10th grade level. And so walking into one's junior year, they would have a half credit for each of those categories respectively. As a junior, we're going to be looking at develop what I will call for purposes now a Health 2 class. Very different curriculum, or I would say an extension of the curriculum from the grade 9 health course, but in that 2 years, there's going to be a big difference in the maturity level and the types of topics that those students will be exposed to at that age level in high school. And then we're also going to give students the flexibility that walking into their junior year, at their choice, they can take whatever PE offering they would like either as a junior and they can double up in that same year, or if they want to defer to their senior year. It's just like when we went to college. 9th and 10th grade is a little bit of a crunch and it's a little bit more sequenced for us. But 11th and 12th grade, things really kind of free up for you because you've knocked a lot of your general recs out. So, some final thoughts, if you will. One of the common themes was definitely where do we allow for student choice. It was popular as a theme for staff members, team leaders, myself, parents. Where do we account for that? And all the different models had different versions of that. And in just kind of my tallying there, the humanities credit, even though it's in that category and it's only a choice of one, there's a degree of choice there. Even though I don't have it reflected on the slide, even in looking at the arts, I applaud the state for not being too prescriptive as to what arts a student must take. Some are going to be more musically oriented, others are going to be more traditional oriented with the arts. STEM credits themselves underneath that larger umbrella of three courses, I think is great for kids. The PE elective when they become a junior or senior as to what that might look like. We have a nice menu for them. Just the electives offering of 5 versus what the state might say is 3, that couple extra courses. So, and we're mindful of being faithful to the Connecticut guidelines for the new graduation requirements. We streamline a couple things like I shared with you with PE and health and what we're doing with there. And I also believe in the idea of, as we all do, of the high expectations. The state is requiring 25. And one of the things that was weighing heavy on me in all the different models, we have an 8-period schedule. We are blessed to have an 8-period schedule. So if we have 32 credit earning opportunities over the course of 4 years, why should we just settle at 25? And why not explore taking a look at something a little bit heftier, a little bit more robust, and a little bit more challenging for students? And it became very popular for folks to land on the number 27. There was great comfort in that number. And looking ahead, I'm excited because as we continue to explore things together and working with faculty, this gives us options. It's become popular and it's even referred to in the more elaborated new graduation requirement guidelines from the state about things like career pathways. And I think we can actually up the ante on that and take a look at high school majors, where not only do we have sort of suggested courses and, if you're interested in nursing or engineering or education, we suggest these courses, but we can be all over the place. I almost want to explore in the next few years the possibility of saying, I'm going to declare this as a major in high school. And if at the end, having earned a diploma, I will still earn an East Hampton High School diploma, and I will have earned this as a major, and I'm going to have decided by the end of my high school career versus college career, I'm not really digging that. I got it, and I got my major, but actually what I discovered in doing that, it's a much more low-cost risk by doing it in high school versus doing it in college, so, which I think you could appreciate. So, questions?
Hi. Just waiting for everybody else, but nobody else is going to go. So it's surprising that I have a question. And the question I have kind of goes to the 27. Right? And I understand that so we have I'm glad you pointed that out, the 8-period, 32 options. So I'm looking at going from 22 to 27, and I think some of this I should already know, and I apologize for the embarrassment of not knowing it, but how long have we had an 8-period schedule?
So this, unless I'm mistaken, this is year number 2 of the
Okay.
8-period schedule. Year 2?
And is that something that we believe that we can sustain going forward? I mean, again, I assume the general answer is yes. We think we're going to be able to sustain that 8-period schedule within the constant pressure we face, really from a budget standpoint more than anything else. So in that context, and this is where I really should know, because I have 3 kids come through this high school, and they all went off to college. So how many credits does a normal 4-year college student, prospective college student take in the 4 years they're in high school?
We have historically been like on a little, like, do you mean like cumulatively, like how like we have 22 for our first couple of years?
Well, I mean, 22.
Say our kids taking more anyway.
Right, 22 was what the requirement was in 19 and 20, but I imagine somebody who's going to a 4-year college didn't just take 22.
Even on our 7-period schedule, we were having most of our kids take, like, they were filling their full 7. And so they were sometimes graduating with 26, 27,
Okay.
20. So for us, this won't, especially when we add the extra, by adding the extra.
Okay. Because I'm a little torn between, yes, you want to make it demanding and challenging and get the students with this breadth of knowledge. But, you also have considerations of students that may want to or need to work, and other domain, athletics plays into it, and how they build their schedule, and how that works, and is there a risk of making it too robust that we're choosing a path that pushes the students further than we really should? Just trying to find that balance.
No, I very much appreciate the heart of that question, and I think, we're going to have students all over the place on their spectrum, because at the same time, to your examples of things like work and wanting to be mindful of that, let's say as a junior and senior in high school, we're going to have students be as ambitious as they want. You might have some students take 8 credits in their 9th and 10th grader, as their 9th and 10th grade years, in order to free some things up for themselves as a junior and as a senior, because they might have those obligations. And in some instances, that's what we can call them, obligations. And so, but I think we can get there. That was actually, again, it's funny you asked the question, because it's one of the things Mrs. Sullivan and I talked about probably about 3 or 4 weeks back. Where are kids landing now? Are they just making that? Do we have some fall short? Is 27 too lofty? I definitely did not want to share that with you if we were just, it's one thing to have high expectations, it's another thing to have them be unattainable. We're going to get our kids there.
Okay. All right, terrific. Thank you.
And just, a little historic perspective, because obviously there's been administration changes. When the high school asked to go to 8 periods, it was kind of with the assumption that they knew this legislation was in place and they were going to move the credits. Now, for example, and Frank's pointed this out, a student can have a study hall every day or in the rotation every day, every year, and still come up with 28 credits.
Right.
So I don't think we're not eliminating the study hall for the student that says, I really need a study hall because I'll use it productively to get work done. So the study hall doesn't necessarily.
Like Kristen does all the time.
Is loaded. But when you look at the courses now that we're adding, I mean, the new courses that we're adding go hand in hand. We're adding more science courses with the AP Physics and the forensics. Even in the arts, and it's not included in this because it's dependent on the budget, but we've got the theater arts electives that would now qualify as arts electives. So I think the new courses that we're offering and the programming here, I think this is a great way for us to begin what the state has determined as their graduation requirements. What we've already talked about is maybe for the class of 2025, once they've lived with this for a little while, or 26, we kind of play around with this mixture just a little bit as well.
I'm sorry, please go ahead, please.
Just having the 2 years of having 7 periods and then 2 years of having 8 periods, I think I'm going to graduate with 27 and a half. So I mean, and I have 3 study halls this year,
Wow.
So it's not.
You like to
eight area better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I guess that maybe just disappoints me a little bit is having only like 0.5, or is it 1 or 0.5 PE elective, like the actual physical, when kids get out and do things. You know, there's.
Yeah, it'll be one full
Like I'd
time.
love to see
Yeah.
kids take PE every year, every semester,
Right, for the
because
year.
we're all talking about help, you know.
Just to let you know,
Sitting all day.
this is already ambitious with 2 full-time teachers.
Yeah.
We're probably going to come to you, because as freshmen move on, you're going to need another teacher. If you add it, you would need a 4th teacher. Well, keep in mind that there's only 2 teachers
Yeah.
in the PE department. To even do this, we've committed ourselves probably to adding a PE teacher next year. And if you want to add the requirements, now keep in mind, the student has electives, they can add more PE electives. And you know, I compliment the PE department because they've tried to add some electives as well.
If a kid does, like, if a kid plays soccer in the fall, can that count towards PE elective or no? We're not counting
No,
sports.
after-school sports don't count towards
Okay,
the
I'm just curious if that was discussed at all.
Was part of discussions.
But we figure the focus of PE and wellness now are different than just sports. You know, athletic teams. It's a great thing to do, but there's a whole wellness and health component.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that does count along
that's
with
the actual physical activity, getting kids moving.
But
Because
a lot of
sitting
them
all
are
day
getting
long.
kids. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Those
No, they got 8 classes you're going back to.
Does this proposal address any of the NES recommendations at all in terms of the classes they're suggesting?
I think by default, I think one of the things that NEAS is always going to be looking for is a wide variety of offerings, right? Be it the electives and what have, and this definitely speaks to that. And as we continue to look at that programming, it does help with that.
One of the things too that we just got, and I'll forward it to board members, we got a list of every high school in the state and the AP courses that they're offering. And, you know, for high schools our size and what we would consider states that, or communities that, you know, we consider comparable communities, we are under AP offerings at this point. So, you know, with the addition of the AP Physics and the AP Music Theory and the thank you, AP Computer Science, you know, now it starts to put us in the ballpark of schools our size and the AP offerings.
What do we have now, around 9, 10?
I believe we have 10.
10?
Yeah.
So next year we'll hopefully have 13.
Yeah.
For 13.
And what do comparable schools have?
Everywhere from 13 to 15. But I'll give you the whole list. And obviously, larger schools can offer more.
Yeah, I see that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave the trustee control here.
What was that contract? He's got a spare.
He's got a spare knee stroke.
I've got extra batteries. I always travel with extra batteries.
Have a drunk coffee, you know?
Okay, unfinished business, I don't believe we have any, no? Policy reviews, we have 4 for first read here. So, start with first one, advertising and promoting. Nancy, you were gonna discuss those, or?
Yeah, but these are all first.
Too bad, Carly would love to be home by now.
Nancy, if you don't mind, I'll refresh your memory.
Yeah.
The reason we're adjusting this advertising and promotion is because the East Hampton Prevention Partnership has a funding that they can provide funds for a softball scoreboard as long as we put East Hampton Prevention, you know, sponsored by or paid for, you know, put their logo on the scoreboard, along with the East Hampton softball boosters, who through a cornhole tournament raised $3,000. So between the grant from the Prevention Partnership and the softball boosters, we can provide a scoreboard. However, the expectation is that we would put, East Hampton Prevention Partnership and softball boosters on it. So this policy allows the superintendent to approve appropriate advertising for things like scoreboards or other things within our building. I would even wear, company logos on my jacket if that would be a little income stream for the school.
Stop and Shop hat,
But the wording here does allow, if there's obviously we're not interested in vaping companies putting up our scoreboard. It does give the superintendent the ability to approve
We're not sure about that, Paul. The budget's going to pass in Connecticut, and all the baby companies are going to go out there.
There it is.
Okay, questions on that one? Or move on? No? Okay, so that'll be our next meeting. Next policy, security check, fingerprinting.
And that's a regulation change?
This is an update in regulations. The legislation changed. Shelley Cibula does all of our fingerprinting, and these are all the things that we have to make sure are in place for all new hires, from substitute teacher to student teachers to faculty to non-certified staff. Everybody is fingerprinted.
Questions on that?
A lot of regulation.
So is this bringing the policy up to the, it's not policy, it's the regulation?
The regulation
Bringing it up
is-
to what is normally done?
Yep. We're already doing it, so our regulation now catches up to our practice.
Okay.
Next is expectation of student dress.
And this is just a updated policy, new regulation. Your policy was adopted 13 years ago. And this just accounts for, we took out the word "and grooming" in the policy. I think it's much more contemporary wording that's, and still gives the buildings the right to have individual dress code policies in their handbooks.
Questions on that one? And what?
There was something about people not wearing, right in the beginning, does not depict or advocate violence, criminal activity, use of alcohol or drugs, pornography or hate speech, but no mention of like tobacco products in the beginning, the second paragraph.
You are welcome to add that.
Use of alcohol or drugs, so that wouldn't be considered a drug if it's illegal anyway?
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, if you want to be more specific, or is tobacco.
So maybe use of alcohol, tobacco products, or drugs.
We would consider nicotine a drug.
Yeah.
That's fine, just throwing it out there.
Yep. If you'd like that wording in, we can certainly add that.
What do people think?
I think if it's covered by drugs.
I think it's understood. I mean,
I'm just trying to think of. I'm probably not going to come up with something like what kind of shirt, or pants, or jacket, whatever.
You never know.
Jewel. Or no, a big picture of a Camel cigarette. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's t-shirts on everything that's, you know, I personally would feel better if we had specific.
So you want to throw it back to policy? I don't know, they're not meeting
No,
for our next
just
meeting.
add the line.
Is that the words?
Yeah, doesn't harm anything.
Did everyone pick up on that?
Add the line.
You're allowed to add lines in.
Okay, I think we're going to add that in there.
I say just add it, make it clear.
Yeah, make it clear. Leave nothing up to.
So just
All right, so alcohol, drug,
tobacco products,
tobacco products.
pornography, or hate speech.
Okay. All right, so that'll be for our next meeting. It's in there. Whew, last one, homeschooling.
So over the years, I've been approached by certain homeschool families who have expressed an interest in participating in after-school activities. The original policy that you had that was updated in 2016, shortly after I arrived, there was no opportunity for them. Since then, there's been several requests. Typically, the requests are for inclusion in things like the school musical or after-school clubs or things like that.
Like an Interact or something like that?
Any after-school club. Now,
As long as
CIAC guidelines, students can, homeschool students cannot participate in any sport at the middle school or the high school. However, people have requested, and that has never been a request. Typically, it's been, there was a request for this year's musical, there's a request for, after-school clubs, just so the homeschool student would have a chance to socialize with students. Now, I've given you, on the back of that policy is an update on school law. It is literally up to the Board of Education how you wish to proceed, because it is not required based on previous cases. There is no obligation to do this. It just falls into how you feel as a board.
How do those clubs usually communicate to the kids?
We're under no obligation to communicate to clubs.
What I'm saying?
No.
How do the clubs usually communicate? Like, if you want to sign up for Interact, is that?
That's all internal.
Right. So now this change would mandate that be now external.
How are
No.
the homeschool
No.
parents
That's-
notified?
The parents
We're
have to
under no
find out.
obligation to notify them, that if they heard about it, they'd make a request.
It's up to them to get the information.
Oh yeah, there's no burden on us to notify
Start
them.
sending out
So they may be a student. For example, we had a student that was in our school, decided that they were going to be homeschooled, but really wanted to participate in the musical, obviously knows that we do a musical, and we were not able to accommodate them with your policy. So I don't feel that this is an obligation of ours to now communicate out to the community what we offer. This is if we are approached, and it would be, as you can read in the policy, it's based on, permission of the superintendent of schools, as far as, is there space in that?
Right.
In
So
that, if
it's a case-by-case basis.
it'd be a
basically. You
case-by-case
don't want all
basis.
the-
And they've obviously got to agree to participate based on giving us any required health forms or expectation of school rules.
Right.
I'm in favor of it.
So there wouldn't be a requirement that communication change, but the reality is it would need to.
No, they would, the
Well,
families.
to make sure that all the kids know what's going on, right?
They don't
There's been
have
a
to
change
know
in a
that.
meeting place, or who has to be what, where, when. That would ordinarily be announced, right?
Yeah.
Over the PA
Well, they
here
would-
in school. Now, in order for that club to have, all the people where they need to be or whatnot.
I mean, now with, I would think with social media and the way they
Yeah.
are, they do all of those notifications usually by the coach's own text messages or
Yes.
emails or, things like that.
Kids helping
Posted
kids.
on the page.
Have
There's
your
no
friend text you
real
if there's-
requirement to notify them right now through overhead announcements either, right? I mean, you don't have to make those overhead announcements, they're kind of as a courtesy.
Typically, for example, if a coach or an advisor is going to change something, most of the kids are using like the Remind app, which will have a new presentation because we're switching to one. I think in my communications to you, we're switching to one communication tool ultimately. But there is no added burden. I don't want the school to feel any added burden or the advisors to feel any added burden.
What's the policy toward kids from other schools doing after-school activities here?
Other schools? You mean other towns?
Because technically, that's what, I mean.
No, these are East Hampton residents.
Yeah, I know, but they are being educated full-time outside of East Hampton Public Schools.
So this, what this does not allow, this is only for homeschool students. So if a student is in a magnet school,
No, I get-
they would not be eligible.
No, I get that, I'm just trying to see the comparison.
Jeff,
So
I
you have-
actually brought up the exact.
Right, so you have someone who goes to Xavier, but lives in East Hampton.
Correct.
What's our policy toward them being in the French Club?
They cannot because they are enrolled in another school, so.
Right, which is technically what
Which provides.
homeschooling is.
Correct, so the law does consider homeschool an enrollment.
A district, yeah.
Right. Right, and they have to follow.
So that's how boards
They-
who don't want to approve this figure homeschooling counts as an enrollment.
Right.
But there's technically nothing that they enroll in, but for the sake
It's the
of
equivalent.
enrollment.
It's
Right,
legal
and there's no
equivalent.
offerings in a homeschool.
But that's a
Like
choice.
No.
It is
Right.
a choice.
So there are two sides,
Say,
there are two sides, and, depending on how you feel, I am bringing this to you because I felt it was worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
But from a legal point of view, homeschooling students are considered enrolled in homeschool. The law does not allow for dual enrollment. So a student who goes to Xavier, who goes to the Arts Magnet, can't come back here and say, I want to participate in your sport.
And then homeschool.
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
or, yeah.
Or because it's private school or any other school. Homeschool is that gray issue where legally the board, you can decide what you want. If you decide no, there's no legal footing because students technically cannot be dual enrolled, and the law looks at homeschooling as an enrollment.
Right.
It's just a matter of whether the Board of Ed in East Hampton wants to look at homeschooling as a dual enrollment.
Well, Wesley wanted to say something.
I don't know, can I? Should I?
Yes.
I think that it's a bit of mixing apples and oranges when you talk about magnet school or another school that they decide to go to, or a private school because they pay tuition there. There are clubs and things that the opportunities that all of those schools afford. And yes, it is a choice, the parent's choice. So what I'm saying is the kids, the children are the ones who would like to participate. So their parents have made a choice for them, and now the students are saying, well, I would like some opportunity, even though my parents made a choice for me to be homeschooled. That's my point.
Well, as minors, they're not making that decision for themselves anyway. They
That's
might
correct.
express
So what my point is,
desire.
that they don't have opportunities afforded to them like other school choices afford to them. So these homeschoolers don't have anything. And if they want to, because they want to, this is just my opinion, because the choice was made for them by their parents, that they were homeschooled, and now they need an interest in something and they like it, that's kind of, to me, a no-brainer, but that's just me.
Now, keep in mind, in order to participate, there would be a health form that'll have to prove immunizations
Just like any
or why
other-
they're not
Yes.
immunized, which is a reason that a lot of homeschool people are homeschooled. They don't want any forms or anything like that. So
Right.
we still have the opportunity to, it's just not
No, they're gonna need,
come in willy-nilly
As long as
either.
they jump through our hoops.
well, no, it's just following what our school students
No,
would
they've
have
gotta-
to do.
They've got
So,
to
the same
follow
requirements.
what we require of any of our
Exactly.
students. I mean, I don't want you, bringing the music to my.
No, no, same requirements.
So, let me ask you this question. What if there was a homeschool child in Portland, or East Haddam, or Marlborough, or Colchester, and they were very interested in music, and they loved East Hampton music?
No, because they're not taxpayers.
No, they're not a resident. No.
You have to be a resident.
I mean, those parents are taxpayers.
Yeah,
It's
just
Board of-
like-
It's the Board of Education.
Might need to tighten them, maybe, I don't know.
It's the-
Let's
well,
see.
Just like a resident of East
Right.
Haddam couldn't come to East
Right.
Hampton High School if they're not a resident.
We can add the line, homeschool students who reside in East
Yeah,
Hampton.
I think,
Okay.
you probably would need to have.
You need to,
Okay.
yeah, you need to
That's
verify
very
residency.
Yeah.
Well, then that goes back to my question. A kid who lives in East Hampton and goes to Xavier, He's
Then
already
that's
enrolled.
school
He's
choice.
already
They
enrolled
go,
in a
no.
school.
Yeah, but what if that kid doesn't have
Yeah,
a
but that
robotics
student, that
club
student's
and he
not
wants to?
homeschooled.
Because he's
Right,
already
but
enrolled at
But
another school.
this policy
Yes.
specifically speaks to homeschool
Right,
students.
so-
Yeah, this one is just for
Just
homeschool.
homeschool, so the answer is no to people that are in
The answer is
schools
no
or
to any
private schools
student
or-
who's
You
enrolled
want
in
to propose a new
another
policy
district.
to let other people from other schools do things.
Well, technically, you have to be careful because
Right.
the state law does not allow
Right.
for dual enrollment.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So they technically can't.
Okay,
It's kind of
so,
like having your cake and eating it too, to
Yes.
me. It's sort of like you've made, I know they're children and I don't want to, just say, oh, I deny, children activities, that's
Looking
not my
personally.
point. But to me, it's kind of like you make a choice. And you know going in what that choice, all that it entails. And so that's where I'm struggling with this. Not that I want to deny any child anything.
Yeah, if the argument is that the kid is going to self-advocate enough to say, I want to be in French club, then when the kid self-advocate enough to say, I want to be in public school.
there are many different reasons for
Yeah, I don't know that we can.
homeschool.
Right, but I mean, if that's the,
Yeah.
that's the argument.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause I think usually it is the parent that says, I'm gonna homeschool my kids.
Right.
So, if we're all about what's best for all kids, why deny a kid that is homeschooled?
Okay, let's save this discussion. We're gonna
the
vote
right
on
to
it next
choice.
meeting.
You have a chance to vote on it.
No, well, we could waive the first reading.
So I know what I mean is people have.
Oh, yeah, at the next meeting,
You
yes.
have a chance to vote the way you want to vote.
Yeah, so think
We have
about
that
it for the next 2
language.
weeks. If you have any questions you want to ask specifically, get them, and then we will vote on it next meeting. Sound good? Okay.
I knew that would be one that excited you. Usually you don't discuss policy as much as that.
Usually it's pretty cut and dry.
Nothing. Audience and citizens. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Hi, 19 Bruce Road. A couple things. One, this homeschool issue just made me think about something. If students are getting homeschooled, and obviously we have some, do they incur any expenses for the town being homeschooled? Does the Board of Education incur any expenses at all for?
For homeschool students, no.
No.
Okay, so we don't have to spend any money on it?
No.
They are required to come in and fill out a form, but it does not require a lot of man hours to file the forms.
Okay, my basic premise was, the people that want their homeschool kid to be in a French club or whatever, they're not costing us anything right now, so I don't think it's a huge deal from a financial point, honestly. Other issue I was just thinking about, we have the 8-period system here in high school now, and each period is worth credit. Does the state have some kind of time limit on how long a period has to be, or how much time has to be spent during the week for a class to be considered a credit?
So we have to submit the amount of time students in school, and that's part of an annual report, the minutes that they spend in instructional part of the day. There's not necessarily any minutes,
For class.
but the expectation is if it's a credit, it meets every day. If it's a half a credit, it meets every other day.
The reason I said that, because I was thinking, what if you did a reductio ad absurdum argument where we had 20 periods in a day, we would meet for 12 minutes each. I don't think
Student could graduate in a year.
Is there some ways of doing that sort of stuff? Instead of 8, we have 10 credits or 10 periods?
It would depend on if the state approved it.
Would that be a viable thing that could be considered?
Well, I think, obviously the 8-period day is about as short as you would want the periods to be.
Except next, maybe some students would agree with that. That's
Well,
another issue.
Yeah.
It's the philosophical belief of this board that an 8-period day is about as short. Now, keep in mind, with the drop schedule, 6 periods of meeting, 4 days a week
Yes.
to just add a little bit of length. to the period. But obviously, you know, there are schools that have experimented with block scheduling and have 4 periods one semester and 4 periods the next semester. You know, there's all different combinations out there. But right now, the expectation is if there's 180 days of classes and you're offering a full credit, it should be a comparable amount of time.
But there is no
Magic number.
hours in grade stone to earn credit.
No.
Like in college, it's basically so many hours a week you have to be in class to earn credit.
And even that's not standardized.
No, it's not. Or you just have some
Okay.
curious on that.
Yes, oh wait, Tanya had her hand up. All right, okay.
Irene Cook, 11 South Main Street. I just had a comment regarding the homeschooling policy for after-school activities. Has anybody gotten any feedback from any of the club advisors on this? How they feel about that? Because as a former middle school ski club advisor, I was very hesitant to accept a student that our school community did not know anything about on a potentially, skiing is a dangerous sport. To have a student that nobody in our school community knew anything about join us as with the ski club.
And certain things like that, they would not be eligible for because of our insurance policy.
Okay, and that was my other question. Does that then put a liability for, for the school district as far as additional insurance?
Correct, so that's something that we would look at, Karen, but typically we would be talking about things that met in the school and did not require additional insurance on the part of the school.
And it's a case-by-case, just because our policy says it's still a case-by-case decision, basically. So you could be in, but to do French, but no, you can't do ski club.
Typically, if you use the example of the High School Musical, the student was probably involved in epic arts or other things that our staff sometimes already would know the student from the community. So I think we're looking at activities that are logical for the advisor and logical for the student and logical for our insurance.
But there are certain communications that do happen, within this building that then there would be a little bit extra communication with a person outside of the school.
I think that the advisor or one of their friends would be able to get in touch with them. This doesn't require any additional work on part of the school.
I mean, and frankly, to me, that burden should fall on the homeschool student who's expressing a desire to be involved, and there's an extra responsibility associated with that.
But, to Irene's point, having a kid come in to join something after school and not knowing anything about this kid, emotional, social needs, whatever have you, now we're all of a sudden putting what could be a burden on an advisor who now has to deal with a kid that maybe we don't know, or, there is kind of that unknown factor.
Outside of the support structure that you get during the day.
Okay.
Take that into consideration when you make your vote.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to.
Let's talk about it some more.
No, we're going to move on. Yeah. Okay, Tanya,
No.
yes.
Good point.
Hi.
As we approach budget season, I really hope that the board keeps in mind the 4 referendums that we've gone through last year, because I really hope that doesn't happen again. So, having said that, I realize and I feel like it's the repeated state will cut. Oh, I guess that the board, in taking a look at the superintendent's budget, understands that residents and parents will stand behind a good, solid, fiscally responsible budget. And in this case, when I take a look at some of the things, not including any additional staff, to be able to maintain the integrity of the educational system, that residents and parents and we'll stand behind it, but we need for the board to stand behind the budget as well. I also wanted to point out from October of 2014 until the proposed enrollment of, let's say, 2019. It's on page 14 of your document. There's only, we're only down by 18 students, but yet we're down, I think it's 6 or 8 teachers. And if we start to cut more now, with the growing population, the upcoming grades do have larger class sizes in total. That scares me, and that scares other parents as well. We can't just lose the integrity of the educational system for people who have children and don't have children. The educational system really is a true value to the community as a whole, whether it's selling a home or coming into the town. So again, I understand that you're going to be going to tri-board meeting. I really hope we're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I mean, you'll have people that stand behind the budget, but please, I urge you to yourselves stand behind the budget. So come Thursday, I know it's going to be tough, but I really hope you stand strong in the tri-board as well as making a good decision for the community as a whole.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's see. Okay. We've gone through the calendar. Remember Thursday at 6 o'clock here in this room. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Yeah, aye.
Aye, yes. Have a good night. Thank you, everyone.